All right, it's time to talk more golf on Prime Sports Network as we are a little bit more than a week away from major number 2, the PGA Championship, and we're going to get a jump start on the PGA Championship right here, an early futures preview like we did for the Masters in just a little bit. Jared Smola from Draft Sharks joining me as always. Jared, how's it going?
It's going good. A week away for the tournament I've been waiting for all year.
Yeah, it's in your backyard.
Yep.
So, and you're going to be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And
right.
we are going to have you, and just as a reminder to everybody, that we are going to have Jared on live. Live, we're hoping live. And by the way, you'll know if you subscribe to the channel. What you also want to do is you want to click that little bell thingy that basically lets you know. It's like a reminder that it'll let you know whenever something like this happens, an alert button. But the subscribing is usually what you just need to do, especially if you're a frequent viewer on YouTube. And then once we post the live show promo, boom, you'll be able to recognize the time that we're going to be on live. And that's if, and I only say if because Jared, of course, we haven't done this before. We have to make sure everything is set up perfectly. And more specifically, if we do a live show, we have to know exactly the time. So we give ourselves enough wiggle room in case anything happens. But if we can't do it live, if it's just going to be a little too much, then we'll do it the way we normally, produce the shows, and we will definitely make it available a little bit later on Friday evening. But that's next week, so can't wait for that. I tell you what, before let's just wrap up what happened last week first, or yesterday first, and. Wyndham Clark, it is interesting how these things happen. And we don't just talk on this show to talk. We talk over experience. And the experience told us that this kind of thing happens a lot, where you get a player that was kind of really doing well. I mean, he had, I think, going into the Mexico event, I believe it was, right? The week before, that he was, I think, 7 straight top 25s or something. And he was 14-1, the third choice behind the 2 big stars. And but you know what? Maybe he wasn't used to being in that spotlight. I don't know. But whatever the case may be, he didn't have a great week, but at least he had another solid showing. And that translated to the very next week, which was the Wells Fargo. And I think what happens is a lot of people kind of get let down, especially anybody that took him. I think anybody that takes him loses money on a guy like that. Well, they're disappointed, and they just look somewhere else. But you shouldn't do that. Now, I didn't put him on my list, but we did say to put some money on him. We're going to get to that clip in just a second. But it was really great to see that kind of just worked out, not just because we said that was possible, but just for the player. Because I think he's got a great future. I mean, I don't think this is one of those players that's just going to go away.
No, me either. I mean, I have the PGA Tour numbers pulled up just as we start talking about the PGA Championship here. All the players on tour, and over the last 3 months, Wyndham Clark is the 3rd best player on tour in terms of strokes gained total. It's Jon Rahm 1, Scotty Scheffler 2, Wyndham Clark 3. Yep. So the win definitely didn't come out of nowhere. You look at the numbers. This is how it happens. The guy has been ball striking unbelievably off the tee and approach. He has a hot putting week. Last week he gained 7.5 strokes putting, his 6th best putting performance ever. And you add that to the ball striking, and you got yourself a winner.
Yeah, and what makes him a really dangerous player is, he's got the power game. So he's not like a Tom Kim necessarily.
No, yeah. I mean, we talked about it last week. He was first in that field last week in driving distance coming in.
All right, so and this is real important. The reason we're bringing this up again is because of the fact that, I think sometimes when you go on pick shows, you tend to get too into the picks, and we try, especially in golf. There's just so many players out there. You just shouldn't do that. We do the same thing on the NASCAR show. The picks are great. If the picks all work out, that's awesome. That's like a bonus as far as we're concerned. But we hope that you to watch these shows because of the analysis, and don't just look at the picks, because we only have like $100 kind of format. So and we're not going to stick to it. And so why should you? And we even said that last week. So it is important to because that's what we want you guys to make money. Obviously, that's the whole reason we're doing this. So hopefully you were able to take that advice and make some money, especially after we got off to a good start. Because I put, like I said on the clip we're going to play, I put a buck on him. I think he was what, 40-1 or 40, 60-1.
He was 65, I think, on the show. I think he opened the week even higher than that.
Yeah.
You know, if you had got on Monday morning, I think he was like 100-1.
Okay, because I remember I put like a buck on him at 70, and then after the first round, I think, or the second round, I forget which one, I just put an extra, I forget what he was, but I put a little bit extra, like another buck or whatever I had to put, just so I can, because I was already that, okay, now he's in it. Now I know, good first round, okay. So I added a little extra money to get to $100. But that's why live betting is also real important. All right, so let's take a look at what we talked about on last week's show. Here it is. Well, I still got you up there. Let me get the video. Where did I put the video? I always mess up when I get the video. It's got to be in here somewhere. How come every time I close this, did the thing close on me again? Hold on a second. All right, I'll just start the clip over again. I know exactly where it is. Okay, here we go. It's time to major of the year. Two interesting players. I don't like. That's excellent. That's exactly what you want to see. And then Clark, I am definitely going to put a buck at least on Clark. I think this was actually a good week to take Clark because we talked a lot about him last week, and deservedly so. And you go, yeah, well, easy field, and he didn't even finish in the top 20. All right, whatever. Fact is, he's still got 8 straight top 35s, and he did improve from his first trip here to his second. And I think this is good because you see this happen all the time when somebody is like, oh, you got to go with this guy, He's 12-1 this week. We even said it. That was the thing that I did not like about it, even though he took him, was the odds. This is why, I probably should have listened to myself. I don't like doing that because these guys are not used to being considered like one of the top favorites of an event, and they usually don't play all that well. But maybe now this week's the perfect week to take him because a lot of people are probably down on him.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Clark is first in this field in driving distance over the past 12 months. So I think that's important here. So it is a good course for him. Whether he can win in a field like this is the question, but you're getting him at 65-1. I think it's worth a shot.
All right. So that's what we talked about on last week's show. And again, I hope everybody was able to cash in. And now, I wonder what else it's going to take, though, before we actually seriously consider taking him in a major event, whether it's a major or a big event. What do you think that's going to take?
We talked about, he has the game for it. We talked about the power, and you think about the Masters, that's a course where I want a guy who drives the ball far. The U.S. Open, no matter where they hold that, you want, the long hitters, guys that can play out of the rough, the power players. So, for those two majors, at least, he has the game for it. I think he has a ways to go probably still. The guy just got his first PGA Tour win. I'm going to say he's ready to win a major yet, but down the line, I would not be shocked if Wyndham Clark does win a major at some point.
Yeah, it's a little bit more consistency, maybe even in top 5s or top 10s or something like that. But first things first, and because I forgot to look at his. Do you remember what his best major record is? We'll have to look at that.
Well, let's see how he's done in the PGA Championship. He has played it once and missed the cut. I don't think he's played in many majors. He's played two U.S. Opens and missed the cut in both of those. He has not played the Masters, and he played the Open once this past year and came in 76th.
Okay. Yeah, he does. He hasn't had any good results in majors yet, and that's the next step. Just like we talked about, even with players. And look, it's a process, and we talked about it and we're still talking about it with like Sam Burns or Max Homa, top 20 players who still need to show us whether or not they're capable of not just winning, but we have to have the confidence to put money on these guys at big events, and we haven't got to that point with those guys yet. Well, we're at that point now with Homa. Burns, I don't know, but maybe. But yeah, so it might take us a little while. First things first, show up well in a major. That'll be the first test. That's a good way of saying it. All right, now I tell you what. Before we move on, I want to talk about and this is always something that we too want to get from you guys, and that's the comments. If you have any comments, questions at all, we want the interaction. That'd be great. Slop, I like that that moniker. Slop loves the key stats, and we're going to get into the key stats in just a little bit. So that's all Jared. And Jared not only has key stats that we're going to show you for this week's upcoming event, but we're going to use some other key stats that will help us and we'll talk about already this week as we take a look at the early futures for the PGA Championship, and that is the green surface and how important that role is usually. And this is another thing that's real important when we're handicapping, when we're using these handicapping tools. Try not to be religious with these things. You're taking like about 10% of each, and none is really that much more important than the other. It's a collective kind of deal, because Justin Thomas was a perfect example of winning last year. And matter of fact, doing it in come from behind fashion like nobody has ever done before in the history of the PGA Championship. Only one other player had come from behind. That was, I think it was 7th place. I think that was the comeback, but his was even better because of the fact that when Justin Thomas did it, he did it when he was, I forget how many strokes back. He did it, let's see. He came from behind last year. And his win was tied for the largest final round deficit at 7 strokes deficit, tied with John Mahaffey, who did it in 1978. So keep that in mind. And that was a huge deficit, and he did it on a surface that that's not his. I think he ranks, well, again, yeah, because the information you showed me was the last, 3 or 4 years?
Last 2 years is what I signed, which I think tends to be a pretty good, time span to look at.
Is this the third year or second year?
So it's from this date, looking back exactly 2 years. So it's May 8th of 2021 to right now.
So Thomas, during that stretch on those greens, that's Southern Hills, correct?
Yep.
I think he ranked about 158th and still put together like one of the best rounds of his career.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen. So and I'm just bringing that up because we're going to get into that in some of these futures. As far as this particular golf course, again, we'll talk about it next week. So keep that in mind. It's been held in Oak Hill twice. I think only twice, correct?
Correct.
Okay. 2003, 2013. So they're trying to do this every 10-year thing now. McKeel won it in 2003. That was a long shot. And Duffner won it in 2013. And I remember that because I had money on Duffner that year. So, and that was the year. I don't know if you remember. Check out the highlights of Jason Duffner when he wins the event, and his ultra hot wife. I think it was a wife or he was engaged. And then when you saw that, you were like, dude, I mean, come on. I mean, I wonder why she likes you, Jason. And like 2 years later, they were divorced. It was like, boy, man, I mean, she really, I hope he had a prenup. But anyway, that was the high times for Jason Duffner. He was one of those guys that he had that beautiful, like really smooth swing. And he still does, but he was just didn't have anything else in his game, but he was hot. Everything was going great. And I don't know what happened to him, but he's never been the same player. So keep that in mind. We're going to have those two to look back on. And a couple other quick trends, and we'll talk about the main ones next week. 3 of the last 4 have been won by repeat champs. That's very strange, especially for a major. Meaning when Justin Thomas won it last year, it was his second PGA win. Phil Mickelson won it the year before, his second PGA win. A couple years before, Brooks Koepka won his second PGA championship win. So that is kind of weird. So 4 of the last 6 PGA Championship winners have been won by 2 players. which is very strange. Justin Thomas and Brooks Koepka. And the last two winning scores, 5 under and 6 under.
Yep.
So do you think this is going to be a habit now? You think the PGA Championship wants to be more like the U.S. Open?
Yeah, I think it's going to play that way this year. So I want to talk about the course real quick. So, Duffner and McKeel were both shorter hitters. I think that might be a trap if you think this is like a short hitting course. This course looks completely different now than it did when Duffner won 10 years ago. They removed, I think the number is 600 trees they removed from the course.
Since 2013?
Yeah, since
okay.
Yeah, since 2013. They redesigned a lot of the greens as well. And let me tell you, it has rained a ton here in the past 2 weeks. So as long as they want that rough to be, they were able to grow it out. I haven't been there since last summer. I haven't really heard. But if they want the rough to be long and thick, it will be, and I kind of think that's how they're going to set it up. We'll see. So I think it's going to be, a U.S. Open type course where I'm probably going to be leaning more towards the long hitters, because I think you're going to have to be long off tee, and I think you're going to have to be able to power it out of that thick rough.
Okay, so are you looking for anything this week? Because here's an interesting, and this is definitely a trend that I need to bring up, and that is that if you look at it, when Phil Mickelson won in 2021, he broke a streak of 14 consecutive winners who appeared at the PGA Championship without a week off preceding the PGA Championship. Justin Thomas followed that up the next year, did not have a week off, played the Byron Nelson. So basically now we're looking at, 15 out of 16, 14 out of 15, whatever. And when Mickelson won in 21, he also broke a streak of 17 consecutive winners who registered the top 30 in his previous event. And that's not too strange, because you want to come in, of course, playing some pretty good golf. Justin Thomas had finished 5th at the Byron Nelson the week before, including the fact that the last 25 winners have made the cut in their previous event, which, by the way, does not bode well for the man who just withdrew today, Jordan Spieth.
Yeah, Spieth's become the big story now for PGA Championship week, withdrawing with I think it was a left wrist injury. It was definitely a wrist, which tend to be tough. I think Daniel Berger, before he had his back injury, had a wrist injury that basically killed an entire season for him. Now again, I don't know how serious Spieth is, but it's definitely a concern. Maybe he withdrew this week just to get a week off ahead of a major, but he also loves playing in Texas. He loves this event, so I kind of think it's a legit injury. So, not that I was considering betting Spieth next week anyways, because I really never bet Spieth, but we'll see what we hear. But that's enough for me to definitely not be betting him at this point if you were looking at him in the futures market.
Yeah, it's not a good sign if you were thinking of taking it, no question, because you do have to get, like you said, who knows? Maybe it's one of those things, because he even said it at the RBC when he said he was getting a little bit tired. Maybe he is getting tired, and he didn't play well at Wells Fargo. That was he did so well to get back into the event. He's 2 under par last hole, and he triple bogeys 18. And he was done after that. Now, who knows? Maybe there was a wrist injury that occurred right there or the next day. We don't know. Or it might have been he was frustrated. He got mentally just strung out, and he said to himself, "I have got to refresh my batteries. Maybe I'm not feeling a little bit. So I'll just say it's my wrist." So who knows? You're right. I guess we'll find out in the first round on next Thursday.
Yep.
All right, so what else are you looking at? Because I gave a couple of trends, which, if you follow that, you might say, all right, well, and by the way, I don't think it's wrong in any way, shape, or form. I think it's definitely a part of that handicapping, the tools that you should be thinking about if they play at Byron Nelson this week, and don't forget about the guys who are playing on the Live Tour, because they're playing this week. And the one guy that I've got my eye on this week is Cameron Smith. Because he's starting to play a little bit better now. And we saw what happened to Brooks Koepka the week before. He almost turned it into a Masters win. We've been waiting for Cameron Smith to wake up. And if he plays really well this week at LIV, I think he's somebody that we have to look at next week.
For sure, yeah. Again, if we think it's going to play closer to a U.S. Open, I like that from a handicapping perspective because I think on those type of setups, like you can narrow the field down to like 20 guys that have a chance to win. When the courses play that long and hard, like it's just the pool gets narrowed. So again, we'll see what we hear early next week. Again, I have a buddy that works at Oak Hill, so I can definitely ask him before next week's show, exactly what the course is looking like for tournament week. But you're gonna hate this one. I'm just looking at the numbers right now available on DraftKings, and you're gonna hate this one, Greg. But Patrick Cantlay at 22-1, I think, is the best value right now, and probably the only guy I'd consider betting right now because I don't think you're gonna get a better number than that.
I wrote down 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, I'll say out of the 6 players I wrote down that were between Rahm and 35-1. One of those names I wrote down was Cantlay.
Okay, I mean he's striking the ball unbelievably, and Wells Fargo wasn't his best event, but he still gained almost 3 strokes tee to green. And then I think we mentioned this pretty recently on a show, but bent grass is his best putting surface, and we haven't had a lot of tournaments on bent yet. It tends to be more of the surface we get to as we get into the summer now up on the East Coast. So putting wise, it's a good spot for him. He's just striking it so well. I have questions about his ability to close, especially in a major. But 22-1 is I think a good number on Patrick Cantlay the way he's playing.
Well, the thing too is that at least if you take a look at his major history, this might be his best. He even has, I believe, a top 15. Yeah, no, a top 5. Excuse me. He finished 3rd about 4 years ago, and that's by far, I believe, his best ever major finish.
Where was that one? That was at Bethpage.
Was it?
Which is another, east. That's on Long Island.
There you go.
So another.
That's a good one. I have to write that down.
East Coast course. Yep.
Okay.
I was at that one too, by the way.
Who won that one?
That was Brooks over DJ.
Okay. So yeah.
Yep.
So keep that in mind. That's something that if we're ever going to take the chance with Cantlay in a major, this could be the one. And then the other ones that I circled, or that I had in my list that I circled actually, Scheffler, and now 9-1 is one of those things where I don't see. Here's the thing: if Scheffler does really well this week, you might lose a point or two. You might go down to 7-1.
Yeah,
because he's 9-1, and if that matters to you, look. Bottom line, I'm going to say this. If you like Scheffler, take him now, because you're not going to get any. I don't think you're getting better than 9-1. I mean, I don't think you're going to get. I'd be a little bit surprised if you got 10-1. So I think this is the best that you can do. I think it's only going to get worse, so you might as well take him now.
I think that's right. I don't think he's going to get better than 9-1. Now, this is kind of off subject, but sometimes like DraftKings will offer like the plus 300 boosts for the majors. So you can use that on Scheffler and get him at 12-1.
Oh, really?
Next week, but yeah, I'm not sure they're going to do it next week, but they do tend to do that for majors. But I'm with you. I don't think you're going to get him better than 9-1, even if he struggles this week. So if you do like him, and 9-1's not bad. We've seen it. Well, what is he this week? He's 3.5-1. I know the field's not as strong, but I do think 9's a pretty good number.
And I might and look, I might actually take him. So if I'm going to take him, then I might myself do that. The only concern, but this is a Justin Thomas concern, is that he's not very good on bent grass. So that's the concern. All right, and then there are a couple other players. One of them is your boy, Max Homa, and Max is sitting there at 25-1. Now, I think on Bovada he's 30-1. So if you're getting 30 to 25-1 on Homa, you're not getting better than that. There's no way. Now he's not playing this week, so there's not going to be any of that stuff. But
Yep.
I just think, look, he had his best PGA Championship result last year, which is a good sign because we were waiting for something decent. And he's coming off a really solid 8th place finish last week, which is like he's getting ready.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel good. If he would have had another kind of nothing last week, I wouldn't even be thinking about it. But that 8th place finish yesterday leads me to believe that, you know what, maybe he's time. And now we've talked about taking him and holding him for the West Coast US Open. I get that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we can't pick him in this one.
Right.
And we're talking about
that's
one
what I
and
was
done,
gonna say.
of course, for the US Open.
Yeah, I have the future on Homa at the US Open. I know a lot of people that bet golf have that future, so it would be kind of funny. It wouldn't be funny for me, but it would be funny if he wins the major before in Rochester. So
it would be great if you're there.
I think I think 30-1 is a good number for Homa for sure. We haven't seen him at that number really all year. I don't think.
And then the other one, and you're still getting good value here, is Matthew Fitzpatrick.
That's my
at
guy.
35-1. I mean, you got to take that, I believe. And I've already put money on him. And what I'm going to do this week, I did it a little last week. I'm going to do it again this week. We talked about this before. I'm going to do some parlays. So, and again, you got to keep in mind, I know it's very difficult. We've taught it over and over again. It's difficult. Look, we're not saying that you're going to pick your top pick is going to be, hey, my top pick won this week and my top picks win the next week. We all know how difficult that is in golf. But it's not about top picks. It's about making sure that you have a variety of picks. So that can happen. You just got to look at it that way. So, I'm going to try to, like, for instance, with Scheffler at 9-1, I don't want to put, even if I pick him, I don't want to put a boatload of money on 9-1. That's such a low number. So what I might do is put a little bit of money on Scheffler. I mean, for this week at 3-1. Let me go back. So he's such a low price this week that there's no way I'm putting any money on him to win this week. I'm already going to say it. This is just a preview of what we're going to talk about. No way. But you know what? Well, I'll put a parlay on him. Maybe I'll put like a buck or two parlay on Scheffler and Matthew Fitzpatrick. That'll pay a couple $100 if Fitzpatrick wins next week.
Yeah, or you could even go Scheffler, the double.
You could do that. That would be a lot harder. But I'd rather just do the Scheffler Fitzpatrick and be you get a lot more money for it too. But anyway, that's the whole theory behind it. And then one more name that I circled was one of your Live Tour players, and that's Patrick Reed. Reed is 65-1, and the reason why I bring him up is the same reason we brought up Cameron Smith at 22-1, is because if he plays well this week at Live, the number will go down. And because he's got the name recognition. He did have a runner-up at the PGA Championship in 2017, so he's had his moments with this major. He was 4th at the Masters, so I think 4th at the Masters, solid Live Tour year. If he were to play well or win this week, you're going to lose that 65-1, and you might want to take it early.
Yeah, for sure. He's playing well. The two guys I'd consider betting on. Again, I'm not sure if I will, but there are also two guys who I'm not sure the number's going to get better. The first is Fitzpatrick at 35. Yep. The other one for me, I'm going to go back to him, is Sung J M. He's playing so well. Like a win has to be coming.
What's
from him.
What's holding him back?
Numbers wise, nothing. He's doing everything well. It's just 8th at Wells Fargo, 7th at Heritage, 16th at the Masters, 6th at the Players. He just he's right there. I don't see anything holding him back. It's hard to win PGA Tour tournaments.
So there's no particular part of his game that's holding him back from stats that you've noticed. Okay.
Nope. He's gaining across the board. He's doing everything well, which is that's the type of player he is when he's going well. There's really no weakness to his game. He's a good putter. He's not the longest hitter. That's why I'm not sure I love the course for him, but he is one of the most accurate drivers, at least among the top end players. So that's another way to beat these long courses with thick rough. Even if you're not a long hitter, just at least keep it in the fairway, so you're not having to play out of that rough.
And now I know he played the PGA Championship a couple of years ago. I forgot why he didn't play last year, but he finished 17th.
That's good.
in 21, and his best majors, he was runner-up at the. See, all of his best major results come from the Masters. He was second in 2020. He was 8th last year at the Masters.
I still think that's worth. I think being in the mix at any major is worth something.
Sure.
Like I think that experience is could help him win a major even if it's not the Masters.
So I don't know if he's played the PGA Championship more than once.
Yeah, he played it in 18, 19, 20, and 21.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, he came 17th in 21, like you said. He actually missed the cut in 20 and 19.
Oh, okay, that's what I was. Okay.
Came 42nd in 2018.
Okay. So,
not the best record.
So you're telling me, but from what you said, has he improved each year?
He went 42nd, missed cut.
42nd miscut. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
really
anyway,
nothing until
nothing
21.
great so far. But look, you don't have to. I mean, he hasn't won since when? 21, the Shriners.
Yeah, it sounds right. It's been 21 at the Shriners.
He's got 2 wins. Yeah.
Yep.
And the Honda was his best win, really. I'm kind of surprised that they think the Shriners was his better win. I don't know why they would say that. Why would the Shriners be a better win than the Honda Classic? Oh, maybe because of the points he won. Maybe that's what they were looking at. I don't know. Boy, the poor Honda. I don't know. It's such a good golf course.
I know. I love that course.
To me, that's more impressive, without a doubt. And then some of the other long shots that I'm thinking about that I just put there, just Hatton, because he's 50-1, and if he plays well again this week, I think that could go down as low as 35-1. Justin Rose, by the way, even though it says 65-1 here, you can get Justin Rose at Bovada at 90-1. And I know that Rose has a good history at PGA Championship golf courses, and he's actually playing pretty well. I kind of thought that the Masters was a good fit for him, but you never know. I still believe that a guy like Rose that has the major pedigree, that gets off to an early start with the win, he's going to be dangerous in majors. And one of these majors, I think he's going to be there. So maybe it's this one. Gooch is still about 80-1, and he's coming off back-to-back wins at the LIV Tour. The only thing is Gooch is like one of those Burns kind of guys on majors. He hasn't really shown that when the spotlight's on, he could do it. Ricky and Adam Scott are both 80-1. And Matt Kuchar's 150-1. He's playing this week. So those are some of the guys. And as you can see, Fowler, Scott, and Kuchar, especially Scott and Kuchar. These are guys battle-tested. Kuchar, of course, never won a major, so his time is running out. But he could still, maybe he could still do it. Everything would have to work out for him, but he's playing well. So.
I like the Hatton call especially. He's a guy that's been close. I mean, 3rd last week, 2nd at the Players, 4th at API, 6th at WMPO. I mean, he's a guy that's been close to winning this year, and he's good enough where I think he is going to win a major at some point in his career. The only long shot that catches my eye, and I think last week I talked about how I can't bet Shane Lowry anymore. Gary Woodland's getting close to that stage for me.
I've noticed that.
Gary Woodland led the field last week, tee to green.
Okay.
He was better even than Wyndham Clark, but he again lost 3.5 strokes putting. And you do that, you come 14th. If you could just have a break-even putting week and strike it like he's striking, he's going to win. But every week he's losing 3, 5, 6 strokes putting. So I mean he's 100-1 for the PGA. Like, if you want to take a shot that he actually somehow putts well for a week, I think that's interesting. But other than that, I don't see any.
Yeah, but that's actually sometimes that's the best ailment, because you can get really hot putting.
Oh yeah,
and
most guys do, but Woodland he never has that hot putting week.
Well, he must have had a hot week at Pebble.
He actually. Yeah, I think it was actually a couple starts ago he gained like 4 strokes. I remember talking about it last week. Yeah, at Heritage he actually gained.
We'd have to go back and see what his putting was like when he won at Pebble.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, well, that's the other thing. The guy's won a major before, so yeah. When he won at Pebble, he gained 7.2 strokes putting.
There you go. Yeah,
I
because
mean,
he's 160th in bent grass.
Yeah,
That's not good.
It's but it's actually his least bad surface.
Really? So
He's
he's
still
like
not
a
good.
really bad putter.
He's even worse on Bermuda and
Wow.
Pebble. So yeah, he's a horrible putter. I mean, but
Okay.
horrible putters sometimes have a hot week.
That's it.
But, so.
All right. So there you go. There's some long shots to keep in mind. And again, players that you just want to keep an eye on because the odds might drop by next week based on how they might perform this week. Limited number of, contenders that are playing this week. But the top guys would be considered, obviously, Scheffler, Hatton. Damn, I wish I would have put a little bit of money. I didn't put money yet on Hatton. I don't think I did. For this week. Now those odds are going to drop because he was 14-1. He was the third choice. Let me see have they updated that. Let's see.
Yeah.
He's only down to 12-1 on Draft Sharks. That's not that bad.
Yep.
But yeah, some of the odds this week we're going to get into are there's decent players this week. Mm-hmm. Not bad like some of these other events, but still, the odds for some of these players are like, come on. I mean, they're getting way too generous with those odds with some of these players. But you know what? Look, all it takes is Scheffler not to win.
Right.
We'll get into that in just a sec. So, all right. So there you go. That's our early look at the PGA Championship, and we are now going to turn our attention to this week, the Byron Nelson. And they have only been playing at this golf course for the third year, so keep that in mind. That's real important to remember. It's only year 3 for TPC Craig Ranch. And how about this? South Koreans have won the last 3. And, of course, KH Lee has won both of them at TPC Craig Ranch. But Sung Kang won in 2020 at the other golf course. 13 of the last 22 winners have been international players in this specific event. And another South Korean was in the mix in that 13 of 22 and won. And that was Sung Moon Bae. And the thing that everybody, and by the way, we just talked about the winning scores for the PGA Championship next week. Well, you couldn't get more opposite. For this week, 26 under par and 25 under par the last 2 years were the winning scores. So,
yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about this course. It's pretty nondescript. I mean, it's wide open. The rough is not punishing it. It is on the longer side. I mean, it's almost 7,500 yards, and we do get 35% of approaches this week come from 200 plus yards versus the tour average of 23%. So it's a long course. Like you said, it's easy. It's probably going to come down to whoever gets a hot putter. That's kind of what these birdie fest tournaments turn into. So and that makes it tough to handicap, honestly.
Now the big story this week is going to be their redesign of the 17th hole, and they're calling it Ranch 17, and they are really hopeful that it is going to be something similar, not equal, of course, but similar to the 16th at Phoenix. So it is an enclosed par 3 stadium. And I think they added, I forget what the percentage they added, but they added a good percentage of seats and not just corporate. Because I think that was what they did. That was an issue, is that they corporatized the seating for that. And you're not going to get those people to go crazy. So they've added the seating, and now it's more for the fans. So that will be interesting to see, especially if Scotty Scheffler is in a big, matchup with someone on Saturday or Sunday. But it's something that at least, they needed something. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. That seems to me like that something that only works in one spot. If all these courses start to try to do that, it's going to kind of lose its luster. But I don't know. I know this the Byron Nelson has to do
I
something
got to
to
do
try
something.
to attract
Yeah.
some attention. So I saw just before we came on that they turned one of the holes on this course that played as a par 5 the last 2 years into a par 4, and they shrunk it by like 20 or 30 yards. So now instead of like a easy par 5, it's a longer par 4.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think that really impacts who we should be betting, but so it's going to be a par 71 now, a bit shorter than it has been the past 2 years.
Okay, so let's before we get going, I'm going to throw the stats up. Of course, Slop wouldn't be happy if I didn't put these up here.
Right. My man Slop.
So here are the stats. Jared is going with, of course, the top 10 course history. Last 2 years, that's all we care about. And boy, what a big surprise. Cage Lee is on top. And the top 10 easy scoring conditions the last 2 years. And you see there, Tom Kim is up top. We also have names like Harry Hall and Davis Thompson and your boy, Aaron Wise.
Hey, I'm happy he's back.
Yeah.
You know, he took like I think it was like a 2-month layoff for mental health. So happy Wise is back. So yeah, you can see the names up there. I also jotted down, there were 3 names that stood out to me, top end guys that are not as good as you'd expect on easy courses. So, you know, these are top 10 guys in this field that aren't top 10 on easy courses. Tyrrell Hatton is not very good on easy courses, you know, relatively speaking. Hideki Matsuyama, not too good on easy scoring conditions, and also Adam Scott. Those are
really
3 guys who, you know, still at the top of the field, but generally they're better the tougher the golf course is.
And that makes sense.
Yep.
You know, that's a lot of times they get to these, their brain just isn't focused enough, and they need it to be. So yeah, I can see that. All right, so let's take a look now at again Scheffler. I can't. In my opinion, and I'm not going to stop anybody from putting money on Scheffler. Especially, we can always start as we do it one and dones. You can't do it. This is just a regular event for one and dones, right?
Yeah, it's a one of the lower prize pools of the year.
So look, you can try. Look, if you tried to steal one at Mexico with John Rahm, you lost, and that's exactly why. Even though it was a much easier field, and you did have someone like Finau right there who actually won, but that's the point: is that why bother? Why? And I think most one and done people understand that. So.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as picks, again, I think the best thing to do is just parlay them. Is take a look at who you like next week. Like, let's say you got 5 guys you like next week in the PGA Championship. Parlay in with Scottie Scheffler this week. That's what I would do. So, again, if you like Scheffler this week and you have your list for next week. And I know you agree with that because you don't even like taking players in single digits, let alone 3-1.
Exactly.
I completely understand.
Yeah. With Scheffler, it's the fact that next week's a major, and just again, this course just creates more variance, I think, and it's, you know, the best player is less likely to win here than he is at, you know, a tougher golf course where the ball striking stuff is more important than the putting.
Now here's an example: Scottie Scheffler last year, the week before major, miscut 18. 15. And this year, excuse me, before the PGA Championship, and this year, or if that was the 3 in the majors, the last year, 2021, 12th, 47th, and 54th. So he hasn't had a top 10. And it just shows you that, you know, not everybody's like that, but Scheffler just seems to be one of those guys who is not really worried about what he does, even though it's Texas. He played well. Nobody's saying he can't play well. He was 19 under par, but you needed to be 26 under par. So, anyway, he does have 12 straight top 15s, which is probably what he'll do.
Yep.
Okay.
It's not good for one and done.
No, it's not. It's irrelevant. So let's talk about the next group of guys, including Tyrrell Hatton. Oh, by the way, I'm going to throw the picks in the picks ticker. There is the picks ticker. You can see Jared's crazy picks, and I'm not going to talk about his picks for a bit, but we could talk about mine because I'm going to start with Tyrrell Hatton. So there's Hatton, my top pick, and I'm just going to go with him. And I figured I'm taking the chance just because of the fact that his trend is still continuing, and I'm not going to not take him after taking him last week and then have him win this week. It's just I feel like an idiot. So he's definitely one of the best players in the field, and he's got the odds for a reason. I'm not worried about him being the second choice. He can handle that. So yeah, look, he's never played here, like you said. Maybe he's one of these guys that's not going. He's worried about the major next week, but I just have to take him, and just because again, part of the reason is I just like the way he's trending.
Yeah, he's playing awesome. I mean, there was a little stretch there, miscut at Valero, 34th at the Masters, but before that, second at the Players, fourth at API. Last week, third at Wells Fargo. Last week was his best tee to green performance since the middle of 2021.
Wow.
So he's definitely playing well, and yeah, I think he to me he's clearly the second best player in this field, and not very often you can say that about Hatton. So it's definitely a good spot for him to pick up. What would be his second PGA Tour win?
Correct. The question though, and Hatton's this is a different breed we're talking about with one and done. Is do you take Hatton? I say yes. I think if you like him, I think you might want to take the chance. But then again, if you already have something later on, with another event that I think he could win the Open Championship, or I think he could do fine. Yeah. Wait for that, but he's kind of at a really good. Almost has he peaked? Maybe he has last week. Maybe that was a peak. But you know what I'm saying? Because you gave us stats that's awesome, and he's trending perfectly, and he's playing an easy golf course the field isn't all that tough. You would think that this would be a good spot for one and done.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, Hatton's good. I don't think you need to save him for a major or a designated event. Now, the Florida swing was probably the time to use Hatton because he always plays well in Florida. But if you haven't used him, I do think this is a good spot for it because, again, this is probably the only time all year that he's going to be the second favorite in a tournament. So it makes sense.
Okay. And then taking a look at, let's see, for one and done, I would probably, I wonder how much Tom Kim, and I don't even know, who knows, maybe the South Korean thing might impact people. Mm-hmm. But the problem with me with taking Tom Kim in a one-and-done situation is he hasn't done anything so far. He has no top fives this year. He was 17th last year at -18, which is not bad. But that would be the only thing. But then again, you know what? Where else are you going to take Tom Kim? So
right.
What do you think?
Yeah, and I do like we mentioned that he's the best in this field on easy courses over the last 2 years. Kim's another guy just can't putt. The ball striking numbers are awesome. He's lost strokes putting in 5 straight measured events now. So yeah, I'm curious to know how popular he will be. If Kim's like flying under the radar, no one's going to pick him. I think he makes sense here, for sure.
What about Cage Lee? Now here's the thing with Cage Lee, just to let everybody know what he's dealing with, and it's not good. And that is the fact that only a certain group of players have ever three-peated. I think there's 10 maybe, but anyway, 7 of the previous 9 men to three-peat are World Golf Hall of Famers Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Billy Casper, Tom Watson, Johnny Miller, and Gene Littler. And they are the Hall of Famers who have three-peated since World War II. Steve Stricker is the most recent to achieve back-to-back-to-back wins. He won in the John Deere Classic from 2009 to, and I remember that, in 2009 to 2011. It doesn't happen very often, and so that's what he's working against.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the fact that he won the last 2 years makes him less likely to win this. I just don't think he's, what is he, 22-1 on the odds board? Like, I think, he's not the fifth best player in this field, which is what the odds are telling you.
Yeah.
So I would guess he'll probably be more popular in one and done than he should be. So I'm not going to use him in one and done.
Yeah, he would. Because you're not going to take him anywhere else. And look, if you've got a lot of wins in one and done, you just want somebody to hit you in the top 5. Why not? I mean, obviously he's very good on the golf course. Now, another guy that I think is a serious contender is Hideki.
Mm-hmm.
Hideki, he hasn't won in a while, so I think that would be important. And, he was third last year, and he's playing okay. He's starting to play better. So what about Hideki for a one and done?
Yeah, I think he makes he's in that range where I might want to use him for something with a bigger prize pool.
So you think, okay, let's keep this hot streak going and get even hotter.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I also think he's fine to pick here because, like you said, he has played well here in the past, and he's playing well coming in. He withdrew from an event though, didn't he?
Yes, he withdrew from I forget which one it was, but
was that injury related?
Yeah, but that's what we were. Remember, we were talking about it, whether or not he's apparently better. So
okay,
that's what we've been.
That's always my concern with Hideki is the injury stuff.
Yeah.
But if he's healthy,
now what
he's even not a bad bet. He's still 22-1 on DraftKings. That's if you do want one of the favorites, which I avoided that group this week. But if you do want one of the favorites, I actually think Hideki at 22-1 might be the best value.
He's my second pick, by the way.
There you go. Nice pick.
Kuchar and Scott. What about those two for one and done? Because Kuchar, is you're looking at a guy. By the way, that number's dropped from 35-1. 12th and 17th in his 2 appearances, so that's what you like. Talked about how good he is on these easy golf courses. He's playing really as good as you can expect Matt Kuchar to play. 23rd last week is strong. 3rd in Texas a month ago. So and Matt Kuchar would like nothing better than to get his game going. Matter of fact, this is the highest he's been ranked since mid-2021.
Yep.
Scott, meanwhile, if you're thinking about him for one and done, he's coming off the 5th last week, which is his first top 20 of the year. He was 16 under last year, 32nd. He did have back-to-back 5th place finishes last year. That was during the playoffs. So this is the first. So whether or not he could put back-to-back top 5s together, well, we'll see. See, the thing, I almost picked him, but I couldn't. Just couldn't fit him into my formula. I'll put a few bucks on him because the thing with Adam Scott is this was clearly his best week on Sunday. The thing is was that just a week, or did he find something?
His irons were really good last week. Looking at the numbers, they hadn't been for the past month and a half. So I'm not sure what to make of it. And I mentioned before, Scott, not very good, relatively speaking, at least on easy golf courses. So I'm not going to use Scott for one and done. I am going to use Matt Kuchar on one of my teams. Okay. He's a guy that I'll burn him here at a lower purse event. I'm not worried about. I'm obviously not going to use him at something designated or a major. But he's playing well, like you said. I like that he played well at Valero, the other Texas event, or one of the other Texas events. And he's played here. He's played well here the past 2 years. So I think this is a good spot to just use Kuchar on one of these lower end tournaments.
And by the way, the only other player I didn't mention in this group is Jason Day, and something's off. Something's off with Jason Day and Victor Hovland, but worse for Day. Day missed the cut last week, and ever since the 3rd round at the Masters, his last 4 rounds have just been nothing like his season. The year, I should say. The year has been fantastic until the weekend at Augusta, and then all of a sudden something's gone on. We don't know if it's an injury. He's still playing, so that's good, but he's off right now.
Yeah, I kind of thought maybe he just was exhausted by the time he got to the Masters because he did play so much golf in February and March, but he had a bunch of time off before the Wells Fargo last week and did not play well, missed the cut, lost strokes on approach. So kind of wonder if Day like missed his window to pick up a win when he was playing so well early on in the year.
All right, so that would be it then for one and done. No other players that you would consider.
Yeah, I think I'm sort of looking at. I'm going Kuchar for sure, and then my other one, I'm probably going to go either Hatton or Tom Kim.
Okay. All right. Now, as far as the picks, we'll keep going. Again, Hatton's my top pick. Kuchar's my second pick. So we got through that. And then Matsuyama's my second pick. Excuse me. So Matsuyama's my second pick. Kuchar is my third choice. So those are going pretty quickly on my end. And unfortunately, with Spieth withdrawing, the odds are dropping pretty fast.
Yep.
Next up, and as far as the list of players, let's talk about Seamus Power, because he's my next guy, my fourth choice. And Power, I think he'd be an interesting out of left field one and done, to tell you the truth. Not the worst idea if you're looking for a sleeper. But Power, very solid here in his 2 years. 17th and 9th, both 18 under par. 18th last week, so maybe that's a sign. 18, 18, 18. And maybe he'll win on 18 on Sunday. The 18th last week was his first top 20 since February. And he fits your model. So what about Seamus Power?
Yeah, I was looking at three guys under 50 to 1. Tom Hoge, Siwoo Kim, and then Seamus Power were the three I was considering. I ended up going with Hoge. We can talk about him next. But I like that Power, again, the numbers we looked at, 9th in this field in course history at this course, and then 2nd in this field on easy golf courses. The downside is, he didn't play well for March and April. No. He was bad. But then last week he gained across the board, off the tee, approach, around the green, and putting. He gained in all four categories. So if that was the start of a turnaround, this looks like a good course for him to kind of keep that rolling.
So not a bad wild card for one and done as well. Have no idea why Taylor Montgomery is 35 to 1 in this group. I mean, please stop with he was hot last year, and we talked about it too, I believe, in the beginning of the season about a player like this is just, when is that streak going to end? And he's too young. I mean, he'll be fine. He's going to have a great career, but it's just too early. His game is not there. And Siwoo Kim is also 35 to 1. So, and Siwoo Kim, I don't think he's played this event yet. So,
yeah. Siwoo I was just considering because I think at the time he was 40 to 1 before Spieth withdrew. And just, he's a guy that's won more often than most of these other guys.
He knows,
at 40 to 1. So that's why it was just a numbers play on him. And then Montgomery, I remember talking about him. I think it was on our draft show at the start of the year, and I actually picked him for my team. But I just remember looking through his numbers and he hits it far and he's okay off the tee, and he putts really well, but his approach game is horrible. And it's tough to be consistent on the PGA Tour with a bad approach game. So until he at least kind of gets like tour average on approach, I think it's going to be tough for him to at least consistently compete.
Before we start with Jared's top pick, I want to remind everybody, because I don't say it enough, talk about subscribing to the channel, but definitely if you enjoy our content, hit that like button. That's real important as well for us to grow as a channel and to get the word out. Make sure to share the video as well. That's all real important. And the more we can grow, the better information we'll continue to provide you guys. Tom Hoge is your top pick. The guy out of left field, not because he was 17th last year at 18 under par, but because in his last 3 events heading into this week's field, miscut 59. So why Hoge?
Yeah, I mean, the event before that, he was 3rd at the Players. So it's a brief run of a struggle a bit for Hoge. But I mean, in this field over the last 12 months, Hoge is 2nd best in strokes gained approach, and he's the best in this field on those long approaches from 200 plus yards. And then we go back to the easy courses list, and he was 6th best on there. So
And look, he again, as I said, 17th here last year at 18 under par.
Yeah. So I'm willing to overlook the poor play for the last couple tournaments, and you'll give him a shot at what is he? I think he's 40-1 now, right?
Yes.
Yep.
What did he drop any? Well, yes, 40-1. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I would still. I got him at 45. I would still bet him at 40.
Let's see. So just taking a quick look last year. So when he finished 17th last year, yeah, because look at this. Last year, before playing the Byron Nelson, miscut 32, 33, 58, 39 miscut. Not exactly playing all that great, and still had a solid showing at the Byron Nelson, finishing 17th. So don't worry too much about how Tom Hoagie's playing into this event. All right. Next up, we can talk about your next pick, because this is a guy that I was actually thinking of taking as well, and that's J.J. Spaun. And yes, I think this is definitely a good week to take him. If you take a look at Spaun, he was a combined 26 under par in his 2 years here, coming off a solid 27th last week. And let's not forget, he won the Texas Open last year.
Yep. Yeah, and that fact is what kind of put me over the edge to bet him, the fact that he won in Texas last year, and the fact that the results have been just okay lately, but like the ball striking numbers have been solid, especially on approach. And Spaun is generally, you look at the numbers from the last 12 months, so he's a good approach player. So I think 55 is a nice number for him in this field.
Totally agree. Good pick. Next up, forget about, Minwoo Lee's game has kind of gone to left field. Meredith McNeely hasn't gotten his game going at all. The one guy that I think, or a couple of guys I think are interesting that I'll probably throw a buck on, Jaeger. I'm all right with Jaeger when he's at this level. He was 55-1 earlier today before the Spieth WD. And remember, he knows how to win. He's got 6 KFT wins. He was 38th here last year at 15 under. He's made 7 of his last 8 cuts, 27th last week. So this is, I think, the week to put a buck on him. And I almost bet this week as well. Benny On, you got the South Korean deal there. But he's ranked 144th in the world. That's his best ranking since late 21. He did miss the cut last week, but he was 6th at Texas just a few weeks ago. So Benny On and Steven Jaeger are a couple of guys in this area here that I'll put a buck on at least.
Yep, Jaeger was probably the last guy off my list. He's another guy. I'm not even going to count these. He's lost putting in close to 10. He's lost strokes putting in close to 10 straight events now. That's the only thing that worries me, because, like, again, at a course where you got to shoot 25 under to win, you're going to have to make some putts. So
he's got to
get
maybe hot.
He finds. Yeah, he's got to get hot, because the ball striking is awesome, especially the last 2 events. He's gained 10.5 and then 8.6 strokes tee to green his last 2 events. So that's really strong.
Wise, by the way, is in this area as well. But I mean, when you're dealing with whatever he's dealing with, I think this is more of just the fact that he's won the event, not the golf course, but he won the event in 2018. 23 under par, combined the 2 trips here, shows you that, if he was playing better, but you know what? If he was playing better, it'd be 20-1 or something like that. But even at 50-1, I just don't see. You gotta get a couple of weeks under his belt.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be watching him closely and hoping for signs of life, because he was struggling badly before he took that leave. But if we see some signs, I'll definitely be hopping back on the Aaron Wise train.
In 60-1 area, Bramlett was someone I was considering. He's played well here at both years. 7th in 2021, and that's important because it tied a career best PGA result, which actually he tied earlier this year at Pebble when he finished 7th. So that's interesting. 40th last week, 10th at Mexico a couple of weeks ago. So I thought, and we talked Bramlett earlier this year, so maybe he's coming back around. This isn't a bad idea for a buck on Bramlett. And Brandon Wu is now 60-1, and Wu was 13 under par last year, 3rd in Mexico a couple of weeks ago. Don't forget, earlier this year he was 2nd at Pebble. Those are a couple of guys that I would also think about maybe putting a buck on.
Yep, I looked at both those guys this morning when I was going through everything. Yeah, I mean, Bramlett is second in this field in driving distance, and again, that does matter here. It's a long, wide open golf course. Bramlett's another guy. Just he's a bad putter, so it's like, can he make enough birdie putts to actually keep up and get into the 25 under area? And then Brandon Wu. His game is tough to figure out. Like watching him and looking through the numbers, like he'll do something good one week, but then struggle in another facet. And then the next week it'll be like flipped around. So like he's shown the ability to be good off the tee, to be good on approach, to be a good putter. He just hasn't put all that together one week yet. But like I think it's there for him. So he's a young guy who I do think is going to win kind of soon at this point.
By the way, Scott Stallings is also someone to keep an eye on, just because he's a horse of the course guy. That's it. He doesn't have a top 10 this year. We were kind of thinking, well, and look, he's at least at times making more cuts now than he had in previous years, where he was just really cold and then okay for an event or two. So he's still all right, but still no top 10s this year. 25th last year, third in 2021. So he's a combined 38 under par in 2 years here. A horse of the course guy that would not be surprised to see Scott Stallings also in contention this week, because that's the type of player he is.
Yep, agreed.
All right, now comes your which choice is this? Your second or your third?
This is my third.
Your third. Alex Smalley. Let's throw Alex Smalley in there. And Smalley, first time playing here, but he's coming off a very solid. Well, last four, he had a run of missed cuts, which was not good. But then last week on Sunday has a strong week at Wells Fargo, finishing 18th. Why particularly? I mean, that 1 week you needed at least to even think about him. But what else? Yep. What else you like him about this week?
Yeah, I mean, he's a young player that back in the fall was really hot, right? He came 11th in Bermuda, 4th at the Houston Open, 5th at the RSM, and then kind of got off to a slow start. Once the calendar flipped to 2023. But I like what I saw from him at Wells Fargo last week. Gained 4.3 strokes on approach. Even over the last 12 months in this field, he's the 10th best player on approach. So he's done that well. He's good on those long approaches. He's 33rd in this field, and he's just a young player. I think is gonna win on the PGA Tour. So getting him at 75-1 in this field feels pretty good.
Yeah, I think you took him earlier this year too, I believe.
Yeah, I've bet him once or twice. Yeah.
All right. And then your next pick was actually somebody that I was considering as well for my first time, and that's Sam Stevens. 47th last week, so nothing great, but second at Texas, also third at Punta Cana. He did that back-to-back, so he's starting to, find himself here, and this is a much easier field than Wells Fargo.
Yeah, and I think we briefly talked about him last week and just how he's good on those long approach shots, and he's just been good on long golf courses in general. And again, this is an easy course, but it's still a long golf course. So I do think his length off the tee and on those long approach shots, makes this a good course fit for him.
A player that I was considering, and I'll probably throw a buck on, he's at 70-1 now, and that's Michael Kim. Michael was 7th last week, and he's made 6 straight cuts. And this is a guy that if you have only been really following the sport for the past 5 years, you have no idea who he is. That's because he won the John Deere back in 2018, and he's now up to 199th. That's his ranking. And if you look at it, let's see, where is he? He is. I don't know. I just want to make sure I got my math right. What ranking do you have him at?
I don't have that.
I'll put
pulled
that
up
up.
in front of me.
So he had the win at John Deere, and that was 2018. But if you look at it, his ranking was 1,179 in the beginning of the 2022 season. Okay, that's just nowheresville. He made his comeback starting about July of last year, and he got up to 333rd. this year. Then from 1,179 last year to 333 to begin the year, he had the 7th place finish last week, and that actually is considered his best result since the win at the John Deere back in 2018.
Wow.
So, again, I think he's 100. Is he still 119th? 109th, I think. Let me see what he is. So,
OWGR had him at like 157.
Is that what he is? Anyway, bottom line is that this is a guy that you need to start keep an eye on him now. He's 157th in the world. And after the 7th place finish last week, it could be a sign that he's somebody that, because he's won on the tour before. I just felt that, it's probably asking way too much for him to quickly do it back to back. That's why I kind of stood away from him on my picks. But I could probably throw a buck on him.
Yeah, Kim has gained on approach and putting in 5 straight events. And I think that's kind of the formula you need to win one of these low scoring tournaments. So.
Also, let's see. Here's another player or two. You picked one of them at 80-1 right now. One's Mark Hubbard, who I'll throw a buck on because Mark Hubbard combined 29 under par at his 2 visits here, and in his last 3 events, 27th last week, 18th, and 11th. The 11th was at the RBC. So that's as good as Mark Hubbard can play. I mean, he's dialed in right now. 80-1, knows how to play the golf course. And you took a player at 80-1 that I actually was considering too, and that's Eric Cole. Cole missed a cut last week, but he's coming off the 2 best. His 5th at Mexico and his 2nd at Honda this year are as good as he's had in his career. He's ranked 133rd in the world, and that's by far the best he's ever been. Last year, he ranked 384th, and at that point, that was the best year end. So he's definitely somebody that is starting to climb the ladder.
Yeah, I thought he was going to win Honda. He probably should have won Honda. So, and like you said, 5th at the Mexico Open, 2 starts back. So it wasn't just like a one-time flash in the pan with Cole. He's been in the mix twice now. So again, just in a field like this, I think getting him at 90-1 or whatever he is now is a solid number for Cole.
And by the way, you're the other. Speaking of 90-1, one of your long shots, Dylan Wu, missed a cut here last year, which is real. I mean, to miss the cut and go three over par in this golf course, you got to be playing really bad. But this is the other Wu that you're going to go with. Explain why Dylan Wu is one of your long shots.
Yeah, he just popped in a lot of the things I looked at this week. And you look at the ball striking stuff for him. So, I mean, again, the results have been solid, too. 21st at Wells Fargo, 15th at the Mexico Open, 39th at Valero, 16th at Punta Cana in his last 4. And he's done it how we want to see guys doing it. He's gained on approach in all those starts. He even had a nice putting week last week. So I do think he's the type of player that, can go low in these easy scoring conditions.
All right. And then my long shot was actually, I was thinking of putting both in, and one of them I didn't put in was Jimmy Walker. But I'll put a buck on Jimmy Walker at 110-1 because he's, we've been talking about him. He just keeps playing well. And now this is a field that he could play even better. So if you look at Jimmy Walker, right now, I think he's on a run of, I think it's 4 straight top 25s. Let's see. Yes, 4 straight top 25s and 2 top 15s. He was 14th last week at Wells Fargo. That's pretty impressive. So Jimmy Walker, this is like a home state kind of deal for him too. We went to Baylor and all that. And the player I did pick, and I thought you were going to take him because I know you're a Nate Lashley guy. But I put Nate Lashley as my official long shot, and I figured why not? Lashley, 17th last year at 18 under par, and in his last 3 events, 27th, 39th, 31st. That's as good as you've seen from Nate Lashley in a spell like that. Yeah. And I think that's a perfect time to take him in a field like this.
Yeah, I think I bet him at the Mexico Open. If not, we definitely talked about him, and we talked about him because he is good on those long approach shots. He is, 11th best in this field on proximity from 200+ yards, which again you're going to see a lot of those shots this week. So I do think it's a good spot for Lashley.
Another player I was considering was the English rookie Hall. He's starting to play better. 10th at Mexico, 28th, 13th. So that was and they had the miscut last week though. And we could also talk about your big long shot. And we've been talking about him the last few weeks, so maybe he's on your mind, and that is Mr. Smotherman. So Mr. Smotherman missed a cut last week, but he was 5th at Mexico and a solid 25th at 17 under par on this course last year at 180 to 1.
Right, yeah. Smotherman's a young golfer that I was betting quite a bit last year when he was playing some good golf, and he got off to a really bad start this year. But that 5th at the Mexico Open kind of definitely got him back on my radar. He gained 6.3 shots on approach there, and he's a long hitter, so I think this is the type of event you kind of want to use him at. So 180 to 1. I don't want to miss Smotherman's win if it comes this week.
Yeah, especially with a number like that. Why not?
Yep.
Buck, it's all you need. Okay,
Yep.
So as far as other players that I've already gone through all the players that I would throw a buck on, but as far as other players that I was thinking of, or I think we should at least mention Cameron Champ. Mm-hmm. How do you not mention him in a week like this? All he does is basically miss cuts and then come out and he play really well when he doesn't. I can see that being this week. He's 90 to 1 or around that nature. So I just think he's worth mentioning there. Hogard, I thought Hogard was supposed to play, but I guess he didn't. He backed out. Anybody else that you were considering?
So I looked at my guy Garrick Higo, but he's still not quite playing well enough for me to bet him. I'm surprised you didn't mention Bezaden, who I know you tend to bet. Christian Bezaden.
Oh, Bezudenhout, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean he's playing well. Because I looked at him this morning. 19th at Heritage, 28th at Valero, 13th at Players,
12th last year
in his last 3. Yeah, and his irons are hot. His approach numbers are really strong. So
he's been letting me down. So that's why I've stayed away from him.
He's playing a lot better now than he was at the start of the year.
I'm going to throw a name, not to win. But I am just really, because I used to really like this guy when he played, and he used to be one of those guys I'd like to put money on. Jeff Ogilvy.
Oh my, he's in the field?
Dude, I don't know if you recognize this, but Jeff Ogilvy has made 4 of 5 cuts this year on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, but he was 11th at Puerto Rico, but otherwise,
again, I'm not telling anybody to bet him because he's 800 to 1 for a reason. But I just think because his game, I don't know what happened to him, whether it was injury or he might have just went away from the game. Maybe he was burnt out. But he was one of the better players on tour when he was out there, especially in the big events. And so maybe something's happened where he's got it again, but he's already at that point where he should be on the senior tour soon.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, the other guy that I should mention, and he's not as off the radar as Ogilvy, but close, is Ryan Palmer.
Oh yeah.
He showed up high in my numbers for whatever reason. He's played well here. I mean, he's a Texas guy.
There you go.
He was 5th here last year, 47th in 2021. Yep. But he's 110 to 1. So if you want another long shot, I'd throw Palmer.
That's a good one because he's going to be dialed in. The Texas guy, like you said, 5th at 23 under par last year, and sort of like your play with Smalley. If you look at Palmer, miscut, and then 35th last week. So just at the right time, he has a good week just before he plays a Texas event. And that let's see, I just want to see when he played that 5th last year. Okay, before the 5th last year, Miscut, 70th, miscut, 48th, miscut.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you don't got to worry about motivation for Ryan Palmer this week. You know, he wants to win this one.
That's a good one. Put a buck on Ryan Palmer. All right. So that's going to wrap it up. More than enough for everybody out there to get their fill, not only for this week's event, but for an early look at the PGA Championship next week. So I hope everybody is good with that. Next week, we're going to do double duty. So we'll be back our normal day and time on Monday night, and then we will figure things out for Friday, and hope that we can put it together live. If we can't, we'll definitely get it up there, though, for you on Friday night, so you can check it out first thing in the morning if you want on Saturday, and well in advance of tee time. And, of course, with live betting, you don't have to worry about all that kind of stuff anyway. And just I guess I should probably note, and we'll talk about this next week, as far as round by round trends of the PGA Championship. Here's one thing: 3 of the last 6 winners began the final round outside the top 3. So that's something I did notice when I was taking a look. Like here, 9 of the last 12 winners began the 3rd round in the top 3. And 6 of them held the lead, which is 50%, of course. But it's not as bad as some of the other majors, but it is a major, and you don't want to have to come from behind. But still, there's always the possibilities, like Justin Thomas last year. So when we talk on Friday, we should have enough good information to get you guys ready, and there'll be some good odds out there as always for the weekend. So, Jared, appreciate it. We'll be talking football soon here on the channel. Can't wait to do that. We're gonna get going.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Oh, but yeah, what were you gonna say?
I'm gonna try to get as much info as I can from my source at Oak Hill for my show. I'll see what I can get out of them.
Keep that in mind, and we'll talk about that on Monday's show. Hopefully.
Yep.
Right.
Yes. Yep. I'll see what I can do.
All right. So there you go. You heard it right here first. If you were watching this late, more power to you. And now you know what to look forward to next week. So we'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks, Jared.
Thanks, Greg.